Weinstein photographed in NYC in April of this year. By Raymond HallGC Images. In the weeks since the Harvey Weinstein scandal broke wide open, it's become apparent that the disgraced producer did not work alone, that numerous colleagues and lawyers allegedly enabled Weinstein to systematically harass women for decades. In a jarring New Yorker piece published Tuesday, Ronan Farrow digs a little deeper into the details of the settlements Weinstein allegedly reached with several women over the years, as well as the purported lengths Weinstein went to in order to bring reluctant women to the table. Model Amber Batlana Gutierrez says she was one of the women who signed such an agreement in 2015, after Weinstein allegedly groped her breasts at an event. She reported the incident to the New York Police Department and had cooperated with an investigation, even agreeing to meet with Weinstein again in order to secretly record him. On the damning tape, Weinstein can be heard admitting to groping Gutierrez without her consent. However, per The New Yorker, Weinstein subsequently hired the private intelligence firm K2 to find damaging information on Gutierrez. Then the public tide began to turn in his favor, with tabloids alleging that Gutierrez had been a prostitute in Italy, which she denies, and sharing photos of her modeling lingerie. "I had people telling me, maybe it was how you dressed," she told Farrow. "My work depends on image, and my image was destroyed." Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance ultimately decided not to press charges against Weinstein. Attorneys advised Gutierrez to accept the settlement. She said at first she refused, feeling pressured on all sides. After more negative tabloid coverage, she changed her mind. "I was forced by the fact that newspapers completely bashed me, by the fact that I was alone, by the fact that I was 22 years old," she said. "I knew if he could move the press in this way, I couldn't fight him." On April 20, 2015, Gutierrez signed a $1 million, 18-page agreement stipulating that she would never talk about the Weinstein incident again. Among other things, Gutierrez's settlement, a copy of which Farrow reviewed, bears Weinstein's signature and orders the destruction of all copies of audio recordings of Weinstein admitting to the groping. Gutierrez agreed to give her phone and any other devices that might have contained copies of the recording to Kroll, another private security firm retained by Weinstein. She also agreed to surrender the passwords to her email account and other forms of digital communication that could have been used to spirit out copies. A sworn statement, signed by Gutierrez, is attached to the agreement, to be released in the event of any breach. It states that the behavior Weinstein admits to in the audio tape never happened. The Weinstein confidentiality agreement is perhaps the most usurious one I have seen in decades of practice, an attorney familiar with the agreement told me. Zelda Perkins, a former assistant who worked for Weinstein, also told Farrow that she signed a settlement she now regrets. While working with Weinstein, she claims that she constantly had to deal with him being present either in his underpants or totally naked, in addition to buying condoms for her boss and cleaning up after his hotel room encounters with women. She says she warned job applicants about Weinstein's behavior and avoided hiring very overtly attractive women. Later that year, in 1998, the assistant she eventually hired was allegedly assaulted by Weinstein at the Venice Film Festival. She and the assistant then resigned from Miramax and sent notice of impending legal action to Weinstein, Farrow writes. They hired lawyers from London-based firm, Simons Muirhead Burton, whom they claim immediately pressured the assistant to take a settlement. Razi Mareskandari, the managing partner at Simons Muirhead Burton, declined to comment on the negotiations of the final settlement, saying that the terms of the agreement barred him from discussing it. Farrow writes. Weinstein eventually agreed to a settlement of £250,000, which would be split between the two women. However, the settlement was paid out of his brother Bob Weinstein's personal bank account, a move that helped conceal the payment from executives at Miramax and its parent company, Disney, as well as from Harvey Weinstein's spouse. Farrow writes. Bob claims he did not know the payout was for UAL harassment. Regarding that payment, "I only know what Harvey told me, and basically what he said was he was fooling around with two women and they were asking for money," he told Farrow. And he didn't want his wife to find out, so he asked me if I could write a check, and so I did, but there was nothing to indicate any kind of UAL harassment. Farrow also reports that Weinstein's non-disclosure agreements for employees included an unusual provision about information concerning the personal, social or business activities of the co-chairman, i.e. Bob and Harvey. Weinstein's criminal defense attorneys Blair Burke and Ben Brafman responded to the New Yorker story with a statement: "Because of the pending civil litigation and related investigations, it is inappropriate to respond specifically to each of the unsupported and untruthful insinuations contained in this article. Suffice it to say, Mr. Weinstein strongly objects to any suggestion that his conduct at any time has ever been contrary to law. Be assured that we will respond in any appropriate legal forum, where necessary, and I expect that Mr. Weinstein will prevail against any claim of legal wrongdoing." Mr. Weinstein categorically denies ever engaging in any non-consensual UAL conduct with anyone, and any suggestion that he acted them properly to defend himself against such claims is simply wrong. Remaining board members at the Weinstein Company have also been bristling about Weinstein's business dealings. The ousted producer, who was fired as a Weinstein Company employee before resigning from its board, was criticized by remaining board members Tarek Ben-Ammar and Lance Meroff in a recent Fortune article. In the piece, the pair, who are working to save a company that one Fortune source calls the ultimate shit show, lob harsh words at their former chairman. If Harvey Weinstein had run TWC honestly and responsibly, and shown respect for the people around him and investors' money, Tarek and I would have supported him, Meroff told the magazine. But he wasn't interested in running the studio honestly and responsibly. He was running it for his own self-aggrandizement. Holly Baird, a spokesperson for Weinstein, told Fortune, "We are not commenting on issues involving the board, and Mr. Weinstein is not available for interviews." In response to the story, Ben-Ammar and Meroff claim that it was incredibly difficult to rein in Weinstein's spending and get clear information about his personal file. The same year the Gutierrez case was blowing up, Weinstein's contract with the Weinstein Company was up for renegotiation. Meroff claims that during negotiations, the board had to request to see Weinstein's personal file, which was unusual in and of itself, and that the producer refused to show it to them. "We were fighting to get documentary evidence of his rumored misconduct, and David Bowie's, Weinstein's labor was fighting very hard to keep documentary evidence out of our hands," Meroff said. "He just said no. He just kept hiding the ball, and creating chaos." Bowie's responded to those charges in his own statement to Fortune. The board controlled the company and had access to whatever company records it chose to require. The board did not review the file in 2015, deciding instead to have it reviewed by Mr. Cohen. That was the board's decision after listening to my articulation of Mr. Weinstein's position and the advice of the board's own large law firm. The board now has the file and has not identified anything in it of which the board was not aware in 2015. Ben-Ammar subsequently shot back, "David Bowie's quite clearly lost perspective in his dealings with Harvey Weinstein and TWC, and that the consequences of that are obvious. Get Vanity Fair's HWD newsletter, sign up for essential industry and award news from Hollywood. Full-screen photos, 15 movies that are the epitome of 80s fashion." Miss Petite welder Jennifer Beals had some big dance dreams, and an impressive collection of dancewear that launched a nation of women trotting around in leg warmers and off-the-shoulder tops. That's fashion. Take your passion and make it happen. Photo courtesy of Paramount Pictures. It's impossible to think of Madge's style without reminiscing about her 80s look. In Desperately Seeking Susan, it was out in force. The pop star's free spirit, big hair, lace gloves, and unapologetically glitzy jewels pretty much defined the decade's fashion. Photo Getty Images. Never have a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a bad boy so looked the part, despite the fact that this John Hughes classic broke down those high school stereotypes. Photo Getty Images. In one of his earliest roles, Tom Cruise plays a mischief-making high school senior with a killer grin and preppy taste. Joel Goodson's greatest legacy, his dancing in underwear moves and the pale pink Oxford as fashion statement. Photo courtesy of Warner Brothers. Spike Lee's breakthrough film about racial tensions in a Brooklyn neighborhood also made fashion history. http://www.thedailybeast.com Articles 2016102-7 How Spike Lee's "Do the Right Thing" ignited streetstyle.html. It was one of the first to clothe characters in what we now call streetwear. Photo courtesy of Universal Pictures. Nearly 30 years after Fatal Attraction debuted, we don't know what's scarier: psychotic stalker Alex Glenn Close attacking Dan Michael Douglas with a kitchen knife, or the puritanical white knit dress she wore while she did it. Photo courtesy of Paramount Pictures. From Mayor Winningham's Wendy, who had a penchant for Peter Pan collars and cardigans, to Demi Moore's jewels and her thing for metallics and poofed hair, this coming-of-age classic gave us a glorious spectrum of 80s style. Photo courtesy of Columbia Pictures.